Dear netizens, it's quite funny. I saw some comments online asking why Mr. Xu doesn't talk about the India-Pakistan conflict or the China-US trade negotiations. These must be from people who haven't watched my videos. Those who follow my videos know that I have left Taiwan. First, let me tell you what happened. I mentioned earlier that on Wednesday morning, unfortunately, I set off at around 5 o'clock. I quickly arrived at Taoyuan Airport, checked in, and guess what happened? The flight was canceled. I've encountered this a few times in my life, a flight cancellation. First, why was it canceled? It was because Pakistan announced a 48-hour airspace closure due to the India-Pakistan conflict, and my flight from Taiwan was headed to London. It had to pass through Pakistani airspace, so it was cancelled. Let me tell everyone, I really think China Airlines handled it poorly. I asked the flight attendants for any information, and they were completely clueless. No worries, Mrs. Xiao was in a hurry because I had to board a cruise. Those 2 days, I was going to the Netherlands to board a cruise to Northern Europe. I was going to London and then to Amsterdam. Mrs. Xiao was in a hurry, so I immediately asked ChatGPT. That afternoon at 2:30 p.m., there was a flight from Taipei to Amsterdam. I went to the China Airlines counter to ask, and they said it couldn't fly, but in the end, that flight did take off. Can you believe how ridiculous that is? Because that flight, ChatGPT told me, wouldn't pass over Pakistan. In fact, some routes do pass over Pakistan, while others might not and can fly over the Persian Gulf. They can cross through the Persian Gulf, from India to the Persian Gulf like that. So what happened in the end? We ended up buying another flight. It was really exhausting. In the end, at 9:30 p.m., I went home because I couldn't check in for that flight. I had to buy a flight with Singapore Airlines, flying from Taipei to Singapore, wait for 4 hours, and then fly to London, taking over 20 hours in total. I went home and then came back, and finally took the Singapore Airlines flight to London. I'll continue talking about the India-Pakistan conflict. The conflict is essentially India finally taking action for revenge, with India actually using missiles to attack. They targeted 9 locations in Pakistan, with the most serious being the attack on a dam. This dam was built with the help of China and is an important project under the Belt and Road Initiative. The second major issue is, what is it? The second major issue is that both sides engaged in a fairly large-scale air battle, with over 120 aircraft deployed by both sides. First, India claimed that it had already taken revenge, which led to the air battle between the two sides. According to Pakistan, they shot down 3 Rafale jets. Then there were 2 other aircraft like the Su-27, which was quite shocking to everyone. Why is that? Because the Rafale is a 4.5 generation aircraft, and people are now saying that if they don't buy the F-35, they would buy the Rafale. If the Rafale jets were shot down, it would have a significant impact on Rafale sales. India claimed to have shot down 2 JF-17s. Is this true? Some of the images shown by Pakistan were old images of crashed Rafale jets. But now it has been confirmed that at least 1 Rafale was shot down, and possibly 1 or 2 more aircraft like the Su-27. Why is it proven that a Rafale was shot down? Because there is a serial number on the Rafale that proves it was sold by France to India. Why was this Rafale shot down? Pakistan claims that all these aircraft were shot down by the JF-17 sold to them by China. They have to say this because it helps China sell the JF-17 fighter jets, which are a lower-tier version of the J-10. If it can also shoot down a Rafale, the JF-17 would sell very well. Whether it was actually the JF-17 that shot it down, we don't know. However, it's also possible that the aircraft was shot down by air defense systems, as Pakistan has reported quite a dense deployment of air defense missiles on the front lines. They used the Hongqi missiles, such as the HQ-9, primarily because they were sold to them by China, for instance. India claimed to have shot down 2 JF-17s, but this hasn't been confirmed. However, something quite amusing happened. A Chinese Hongqi air defense missile, which is a modification of the S-300, was involved. One of these missiles hit India and fell down completely intact because it didn't explode, which is a significant issue. The entire missile was captured intact, allowing for the disassembly and analysis of the Hongqi air defense missile's parameters. During the Second World War, initially, Japan's Zero fighters were at first achieving victories. Later, the United States developed advanced fighter planes, which was one reason for the shift in the situation. The second reason was because one of the Zero fighters crashed into a swamp, remaining intact. After some time, a few months later, the U.S. military found the entire plane and studied it, discovering the weaknesses of the Zero fighter. This India-Pakistan war has become quite serious. I'm telling everyone that conflicts will happen, and it's actually purely a matter of saving face for both sides. It's completely unnecessary. In 2019, there was already an outbreak where 2 Indian fighter jets were shot down, and it ended without any resolution. The main issue is that ever since Modi came to power, nationalism has been strengthened. And in Kashmir, more Hindus have started to infiltrate areas predominantly inhabited by Muslims. As a result, those Muslim guerrilla groups aiming to liberate Kashmir came over to attack India, and this time they targeted tourists, resulting in 26 deaths. Do you think Pakistan is behind this? I really don't believe it. You know, neither side can control these extremists. Because Pakistan would absolutely not go to war with India. Why is there no problem with starting a major war? Both sides have over 300 nuclear bombs. If they start fighting, 1 or 200 million people could die. It's estimated that 1 or 200 million people would die because both sides have very dense populations. Secondly, Pakistan is extremely poor, constantly on the brink of bankruptcy. Pakistan is already severely divided internally. If they continue with conventional warfare, Pakistan won't be able to sustain it. Because how much ammunition and supplies you have is entirely a matter of money. Moreover, India controls the water from the upper reaches of the Indus River. Just by controlling the water, you can bring Pakistan to its knees. Pakistan has 200 million people, while India has 1.4 billion, and India wouldn't want to engage in a major war with Pakistan. Why? It's pointless. Does India want to invade Pakistan? Even if given to India, they wouldn't want it, as it's entirely Islamic. Both sides are just trying to save face. Back then, India had a major victory over Pakistan, but in the end, they didn't want the territory. They let Bangladesh become independent, and that's it. Would they really want to invade Pakistan? It's so poor. India has no intention of continuing the fight. Why? Defeating Pakistan is useless. It's a hollow victory. It's merely to address the nationalist sentiments within the country. Especially since Modi claims to govern using nationalism, and he also stirs up nationalism to govern. The most important thing for India right now is to finalize a trade agreement with the United States and take advantage of China. It needs a period of peace to develop its economy. War is of no benefit to India, so now it's starting to retreat, having won on both fronts. Let me give you an example that I found quite funny. There were two dogs separated by a glass door, both acting as if they were about to pounce and bite each other to death. But when someone opened the glass door, with no barrier between them, they immediately stopped making any noise. Because they knew they were just pretending to fight, as people on both sides were desperately pulling them apart. The more ferocious they acted, the better. Of course, the United States tells India not to fight, and China tells Pakistan not to fight. If the two of you fight, it will only harm them. Why would the United States want India and Pakistan to fight? The US wants to fully support India. In order to effectively counter the influence and actions of China, I am absolutely convinced that this is the right approach to take.